In the world of Frieren, a red-headed goddess. Man has blessed us normal folk with the powers of magic, done by yours truly, FLAW.
不合格だ。
With the facial features of a Southern lander that comes with a lot more mystery than a simple backstory. Born by loving parents, Fern was set up to have a bright future until... Don't jump. It got dark really quickly. In a perfect world, we would be stoic, stay calm, and think clearly when times get difficult, and handle all the pressure like Frieren is trying to show Fern. Except, your boo gets poisoned! Like, again. In the face of your loved ones getting hurt and almost dying. Especially as much as almost dying Stark gets himself into, crashing out seems valid. However, no matter how justified you are in your very, very angry reaction to defend, scratch that, get revenge on the Shadow Warriors, we all know that making rash decisions typically makes a bad situation even worse. Fern is facing her biggest mental test yet, emotional self-control in the face of anger and revenge. With another week of the Frieren Manga hiatus in the books, Yamada Kanehito delivers another updated script to the great Mage Serie, the Feet Goddess, that says you may or may not live. Fern hails from an undisclosed vague place of the Southern Lands, per Commander Reve of the Shadow Warriors, aka Help, sheds light on the environment of the Southern Lands. Demons were more of an issue in the North, so humans' worst enemies were often themselves. With the power of magic and advancement of Zoltrak being the foundation of yeeting magic, the Southern Lands were a war-torn land with a mysterious great mage elf, Minas the Witch, that brought endless war to the Southern Lands and was accused of high treason, supposedly defeated by a younger Commander Louvre. The Southern Lands remain a great mystery along with the lore behind Minas the Witch and why they were constantly at war, but it 100% led to many people losing family members, including Help and Fern. Rewinding back, Fern, like many characters in Frieren, faced hardship, with hardship being an extreme understatement. She was about to yeet herself after the Southernland Wars just obliterated her entire town, along with her parents. Good thing Heiter was there with the bottle of booze to be like,
you really want to miss out on this when you grow up?
It is from here on out with Heiter and later on passing her off to Frieren that helped build an amazing foundation for Fern's growth. Each and every arc we learn a little bit about who Fern is as a person and what she is capable of. Which will eventually lead us to her ever-growing yet slow-burning relationship from despise to a fondness of Stark. With Heiter, Fern was in loving care and helped Heiter around the house as Father Time made it more difficult for him to move around until he was bedridden. She learned great wisdom from someone that understands what it's like being an orphan. Wait a minute. That might be everyone. During her time with Heiter might be the fondest time in her childhood because she continued to be raised, having great stability and order in her life. She took great care of Heiter while doing house chores and even gave her her first staff, in which it holds great sentimental value for. With Heiter's tutelage, Fern gained a foundation that goes along with some of her natural sensibilities. There is a nature to a person and there is a nurture. Fern becomes a great representation of that nurture, as we see her continue to grow from a toddler to a teenager. Like what she did with Heiter in taking great care of him, she literally does the same for Frieren. She isn't shy about calling her out with her laziness and length of time she can be wasting on long dragged out adventures, tightening up those braids when Frieren annoys her. In comparison, from a human lifespan that is typically less than a century versus an elf that is seemingly immortal, unless needed. Heiter early on recognized Fern's talent to become a fully fledged mage, and who else better to teach her than the Heroes Party's own mage in Frieren. Frieren was resistant to this offer of taking Fern along with her journey, due to various unsafe risks, but Heiter is corrupt and tricks Frieren into studying an excavated grimoire of Avik the Sage that apparently had spells of resurrection and immortality. Avik in German meaning eternal is a great name that goes along perfectly with many of the foundational themes of Frieren. including legacy and making the impossible possible, like that of the possibility of using resurrection and immortality spells, with Frieren's want of paying back her thanks to Heiter before he kicks the bucket. Deciphering this grimoire bought him an additional 5 to 6 years, which is nothing to Frieren, but everything for Fern's continued growth. Both Heiter and Frieren essentially became her parents during the most crucial time of her childhood. Right away, we find out just how devoted and focused Fern is at her age, with a gifted ability to control and essentially hide her mana. It took a very long time for Frieren to find her out in the forest. These are crucial skills to have, as we'll later on find out that she naturally fits the FLAW school of the element of surprise. What this showed to Frieren is her long dedication to her training, basically by herself, until Frieren showed up. What's interesting is that Frieren says that she's too driven. Learning things in 4 years would take 10 years for the average mage. Notice how Heiter pulls the "that's how much she loves" magic trick on Frieren.
魔法は好き。ほどほどでございます。私と同じだ。
Due to Fern's apathetic nature, it's really hard to say that she loves magic as much as Frieren loves magic, with another example being her conversation with Sense during the first class mage exam. But it's clear that first and foremost, she pushed herself hard so that she wouldn't be a burden on Heiter, and have him pass away knowing that she was worth saving and she'll be fine on her own. It's the kind of honorable and selflessness that Fern displayed early on that made the audience love her character, who seemed way wiser beyond her years. Fern's determination was one more based on need rather than based in love for magic. I think that might have been what Frieren was hinting at when she was worried about the fast pace of her progress. At the same time, Frieren does describe that her and Fern's love for magic is the same. There could be a higher level complex metaphor here in terms of using magic for a need through love. Nevertheless, Frieren is 100% Fern's nurture and representation of what the love of magic can do for a person. To see a person just naturally happy in her element is a good symbol for Fern. So from toddler to preteen Fern, we get someone with intense dedication, reliable home stability with her help of upkeep, and someone that has pretty good social awareness given her age and being raised by Heiter. I would label this version of Fern as someone that is determined and perseveres, that later turns into stubbornness. That stubbornness is something that manifests itself in different ways, as we will soon make our way to the Fern-Stark dynamic. Remember when Frieren was there to fetch Fern when Heiter collapsed? Fern, in the rain, was not going to stop until she shoots that rock. When it comes to Fern and her sensibilities, she's quite reflective of the average audience viewer's sensibilities, often pointing out various obvious flaws within other characters. Although Fern relies on Frieren's mentorship, Frieren relies on her for their day-to-day activities. She's quick to question Frieren's decision making and keeping her on point when she's always snoozing. So when it comes to meeting Stark for the first time, she sees what we all see initially in Stark. He's a coward. However, over time she starts to see what Eisen and Frieren see in Stark. He's our tank for sure. With Fern's relationship with Frieren, we get to see her be like this super responsible daughter-like person to Frieren. And in return, Fern gets to absorb all the wisdom from Frieren to grow into a somewhat magic-loving young lady that sees the world in a magical light. With the dynamic between Fern and Stark, it becomes a classic young budding love affair. We get to see Fern in a more feminine light with the dancing. The relationship between them becomes obvious enough that eventually we're all basically Zine. Just freaking date already! Fern plays the role of a stubborn girlfriend, not girlfriend to Stark. Keyword, once again, stubborn. They play into all the typical tropes that relationships tend to have. Girl gets moody and annoyed, and boy is totally oblivious. Enters a real adult to help talk things through. This is very much the Fern-Stark relationship with key mentors helping them. Fern dislikes Stark early on, but starts to see all the great qualities he has. Insert all the wonderful scenes of their dates and funny moments. Every arc since fighting the Red Dragon, Fern gets to grow along with Stark and Frieren's party to hopefully find Prime Himo the hero. and not the old shrunken version in Oriel by Inde, near the Demon King's castle, which is a whole mystery on its own why it's located there. When it comes to romantic relationships, Zine provided level-headed guidance. When it comes to confidence and finding what you're special at, Frieren helped Fern realize what she's truly capable of, like during the fight with Luckner, and like during the Divine Revolte arc, where Frieren stood on the sidelines, while Matode fought her demon and Fern fought against a demon that was a natural weak point for her, instancing mana in the fog. Very quickly she found out that shooting pew-pews very fast and shooting Zoltrak from really far away. That fight was a huge confidence booster for Fern that helped her recognize her weak point and also recognize what she was capable of. By the time Fern and Stark fought Solitaire, we see Fern heed Frieren's warnings about unnamed greater demons and adapt to her opponent. She was able to figure out that making her mana more dense could break through Solitaire's defenses before both Fern and Stark turned into gold. This helped Frieren notice a weakness of Solitaire while she was fighting her, and eventually led to Fern playing into her name once again by keeping her mana undetected and shooting a pew-pew from very far away. All the way up to the beginning of the Foundation Festival arc, Fern and Stark's character were more or less consistent with what they had been until tragedy almost strikes. This moment changed everything in Fern's behavior and how she dealt with tense and stressful situations prior. Against Solitaire with Stark, she was cool, calm, collected, and was able to clearly think and pinpoint a way to defeat Solitaire before the plot took a different direction. Now, with Frieren's party on the Shadow Warriors list to be assassinated, they are on the run until... What makes this moment of Stark getting hit with an extremely poisonous arrow different is because Fern might have felt for the first time losing a loved one to an actual enemy. While Heiter passed away, Fern was able to digest his natural cause of death and work through that by paying her respects, with working hard to be able to live fine on her own in protection of Stark. This moment unlocked that determination, that stubbornness to get revenge for almost yeeting her man. As Stark collapsed from that poisonous arrow, we've never seen Fern this distressed, this devastated. This is the birth
A bloodthirsty Fern.
Remember when Frieren's entire village got wiped out and FLAW had to stop her from going on a suicidal rampage? What Frieren had learned from FLAW in her own experiences, she is now trying to provide that guiding light to being stoic in the face of a high-stress situation. But Fern, acting irrationally and not thinking things through, will get them yeeted. So as Stark is lying down, almost dying, once again, Fern starts a flurry of suggestions to rush to do everything possible to save Stark without thinking through the consequences. Taking Stark to the church is too far and will easily expose them, especially since it's possible that their priest is actually a part of the church, as we know in lore in Clematis. Then there was the antidote situation, where most people that have poisons usually have the antidote on them because of potential friendly fire mishaps. Chasing after someone like Wolf, that would naturally lead them to their demise as well if they tried to chase him down. It was that exact line of thinking that Frieren purposefully didn't suggest to Fern, because in the spur of the moment, she would have blindly went to her doom. Frieren continues that the risk is too high, that any accidents that occur within the city would pit the Imperial mages on them. And we saw how strong Noi was when he dropped the building on the Megane and blinded Yubel, disrupting her mana senses. As much as Frieren believes in Fern and Fern believes in herself, Frieren is most worried about Fern's mental state, because it leads to almost yeeting Go TP. This is becoming a very big lesson for Fern, and one that Frieren correctly points out that she was able to remain calm and by chance notice Zine that reintroduces himself back into the Frieren party in search of Gorilla Dubs. After Zine was able to heal Stark and the Shadow Warriors forces Frieren's party to fight, Fern remained upset and insistent about taking her shot to take them out. Once again, Frieren has to calm her down. At this point, we can see that Fern has become a bit more impulsive, bloodthirsty, and irrational. However, Fern's redeeming quality is still the fact that she loves and respects her mentor, and does not step out of line. She still waited for Frieren to give her the go-ahead to finally shoot from very, very, very far away. It's become a constant theme throughout for Frieren to get Fern to calm down, and for Fern to act much more hot-headed since this incident. Good thing for Fern's humanity, it's implied by Gazelle and Fern herself that she let Lore off easy and could have blasted her in the face, yeeting her. So from here on out, Fern is in one mode: beat the ever-living crap out of the dudes that tried to yeet Stark. Frieren tells Sense how fired up Fern is. As Sense helps dress Fern, she snaps back at our poor Frieren, with Serie making fun of her. But Frieren claps back and tells her to go yeet herself. At the ball, Fern suggests making the first strike, except Yubel beat her to it. When Fern and Stark were discussing the Shadow Warriors, she speaks with such cold-bloodedness about her hit on Lore that it scares Stark. This is that stubbornness of Fern that makes it hard for her to let go of what the Shadow Warriors did to Stark, and something she will eventually have to overcome, especially if this trait results in a negative outcome due to her doing of acting irrationally. This is where we are currently at with Fern's character. As of chapter 147, as Frieren, Stark, Fern, and Zion all go meet up with one-armed Falch, who is in a pickle against Werlos and Gorilla. Fern's anger and rashness has become her clear-cut character flaw this arc, with Frieren already stopping her multiple times from making a poor decision. However, when the fight commences in a potential all-out brawl, how will she act if Frieren isn't there to guide her out of an impulsive decision? The one saving grace for Fern in any potential faults she may have lies in all of her mentors along her journey. Is the cumulative knowledge and experience that may save her from possibly messing something major up this arc. Because in my eyes, it's set up for Fern to make a poor decision. Craft the Monk notes it himself that Fern is a good girl and has deep faith in the goddess due to her being raised by a priest. So while it looks like Fern's mind state is set on revenge and ready to crash out like Serie and Yubel would, the foundation of her faith from her parents to Heiter and now Frieren have instilled why nurturing the next generation is paramount for the future of the world. Besides Fern's current mental state in the Foundation Festival arc, one of the other fun Fern related parts of this arc is what it teases for Fern's character in terms of potential matchups. Character development aside, it's been teased multiple times and already mentioned in Serie's prophetic dream that she will fight Captain Frieza. After Fern blasted Lore, Fern and Noi made a bit of eye contact. Frieren even has Fern learn about Yubel and Megane's match against Noi, and about hearing buzzing of winged insects. This is noteworthy because it disrupts your mana detection, which is another layer of mystery that could help prevent the great mage Serie, the feet goddess's demise. Throughout this arc, there are little hints of what potential matchups we may see, like with Sense mentioning that she would be down to throw hands with Lineal, who we can assume is Kanone. It's going to be interesting to see where Fern's character goes from here on out, knowing that she has developed a clear character flaw. So let me know what you guys think about Fern's character in the Foundation Festival arc and where you guys think her character is going. Will she be able to prevent a costly decision, or will she be able to prevent making a bad one? Let me know. I would love to know. Also, check out my previous video about Stark and where his character is going beyond the Foundation Festival arc. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.